Welcome to House Calls. I'm Dr. Connie. Are you looking for love? Well, I am the love doctor, but I will write your prescription to a professional matchmaker, Roseann Higgins of SPIES. But before we start off talking about love and looking for love, I always kick off my shows with honorable mentions. So I want to mention all the people that I know or are close to me who are celebrating February birthdays. Number one, Dr. Bernard Bendock, who is the chief of neurosurgery at Mayo Hospital. He's been on our show in the past. Linda Johnston in Utah, happy birthday. Susan Wiley, Trudy Hammond, who is a neighbor of mine. Leslie Ridenour, she and her husband Richard have been on our show before. Allie Zimmerman, Patricia Logan, Joseph Whitewolf in Sedona, who is a shaman who leads everybody on these amazing tours. Jim McDowell, Michael Kaiser, Rob Harden, Arizona State Treasurer Kimberly Yee, who's a dear friend of mine, happy birthday. Tom McWilliams, Sandy Scarcella, Rob McGann, who is, he and I share grandchildren from my son Andrew and his daughter Erin. My daughter-in-law, Aaliyah Stevens' nephew, Sidney Chalmers, is having his second birthday on Valentine's Day. We're also celebrating this month the 57th wedding anniversary of my significant other best friend, Maddie Williams, like my big sister, and her husband, Ray. So happy birthday to all of you, and happy anniversary, Maddie and Ray. So when I think of Valentine's Day, if you look up the history of Valentine's Day, I always find it interesting that it was named after a martyred saint. So from death came love, and there's a long story, but traditionally it's about love and affection and who's important in our lives. And what do we do on these days? You give them cards, you give them flowers, you give them gifts, you take them out to dinner or lunch. And hospitality people love this holiday because it's the number one day of the year that they have the most reservations. They are totally booked. If you try to get a place to dine on Valentine's Day, good luck. Usually they book 3 months in advance. So these cards are special. Obviously, you give them to your spouse, your partner, significant other. You give them family members. Among my women friends, you call them Galentine cards. You have these Galentine events because they're besties. Flowers, dinner, we talk about that. So when I think of Valentine's Day, I love symbolism and I love props. So I always think of the unicorn, all right? My grandchildren love these. Unicorns are wonderful. So if you ask somebody or you tell somebody, you are the unicorn. What is a unicorn? Unicorn is somebody or something that is highly desirable but difficult to achieve, right? The mythical unicorn, highly desirable. So in a lot of ways, would that be somebody, if you're looking for love and your ideal partner, aren't we all sort of seeking the unicorn? So in my studio here today, I have a special guest who I'm going to call the unicorn hunter.
I like that.
Yeah, she's a unicorn hunter. Her job, her profession is she finds people to match and has been very, very successful. So let me tell you about my special guest. I've known her since 2008, and she's very well known here in Phoenix, in the Scottsdale area, and actually outside of it, depending on who you've met with. But we met through mutual friends, and actually we met in an event in 2008 at a dinner party, and we have some very close friends in common. But she is Roseann Higgins, and she's had over 16 years in the Navy. I think we connected because of your military career, having been in the Navy, served in the Navy all those years, and learning all you did. But I'm going to let you introduce yourself. You're a pro at this. She's done podcasts. She's done her shows. And so Roseann Higgins is our special guest on Valentine's Day, talking about you being the unicorn hunter and connecting unicorns. So
I love that you reached out, that I'm here today. I have always admired you. I love your choice in men. I love your choice in friends. Just having lunch with you today and you wanting to send me single people and already introducing me to someone, you're a connector. And your messages, your book coming out on widows and your support of human love and just every human health. You gave me health advice. I'm just all over. You said pick the strawberries, not the cookies, when we pass them. So thank you. I don't know what you want me to say about me, but you pretty much covered it.
How'd you get into matchmaking?
Now, let's see. I did an accidental one when I was stationed in Rota, Spain. When they told me they were getting married, I went, what? So, but they lasted 25 years, but it was only because I always loved meeting people. And it's like, hey, come out with us. So that's how it kind of started. In New Orleans, I had one in Panama City Beach when I was at the Navy Dive School. I had Roxanne Ruiz married Jerry O'Regan. And he was a Navy diving officer and she was a newscaster. And they never would have crossed paths. I met her because after school at night, I went to Gulf Coast Community College, and Peddler's Alley was a popular place. I met a reporter. She introduced me to her girlfriend. And Jerry and her would never have crossed paths if I didn't hang out with the hot Navy divers, which who doesn't want to do that? Mm-hmm. And so that one was kind of on purpose, but not like a match. I was not seeing it as a match. New Orleans,
how'd you get in the Navy? I'm just going back to that.
How I got in
unusual.
the Navy.
It's an unusual background.
How did you get in the Navy?
Well, I did it because of scholarship. My dad was in the Navy, and then I went to the military medical school. Long story with that. But you chose the Navy. You weren't, there was no draft then when you got in. You enlisted.
I love that we're talking about me, but you being a rear admiral in the Navy is me being with royalty right now.
Well, you're kind.
No, it's just like amazing.
Well, we love this country and we served our country.
Yes.
But it makes it unique for a woman, military.
I went to modeling school and they told me I'd have to starve myself for the rest of my life. At the age of 18, it seemed like a very long commitment by a woman who probably needed to eat lunch. Yeah. And I'm like, that doesn't seem like the cards. And then somebody said, why don't I join the service? I could travel the world. Well, when I grew up, we didn't have a car. My parents were blind and legally blind. So nobody ever mentioned college and nobody ever mentioned travel. My first duty assignment after boot camp in Orlando and Morse code and Radioman A school in San Diego was Rota, Spain for 3 years. And I was telling you, I lived on the beach. My first album was on the radio. I went for a 4-mile run at the age of 19 with a view of the Atlantic Ocean. The Navy always gets you near the beach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the best benefit of the Navy was, that and my medical benefits that I just used last month. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I got trained for a career. And what it did for me with matchmaking was not just identifying that I could bring two people together. Every time we discuss this, when you go to a new duty station, you start at ground zero. You know no one at the new duty station, which is almost a good thing because I remember in Spain, I did not want to see a couple of people there ever again. So it was just like, praise Jesus. And I arrived to Panama City Beach, Florida, and it's a whole new frontier. And I met great people every single time, like at Andrews Air Force Base when I was a reservist out of there. And that's where Air Force One is. I got to be invited to watch the president arrive, George H.W.
Yeah.
Who was your first experience with a president?
My first president.
Yeah.
But, you did bring up a good point. The military, you travel, you get, the detailer will send you someplace every 2 to 3 years. And we used to say, if you don't like it, don't worry. In another year,
you're moving.
You're going to move.
Yeah.
So don't worry. And somebody's going to be rotate out of your sphere. But it is a small Navy because you may eventually see them later. But you learn to adjust pretty fast. But there was something about you that said you wanted to put certain people together.
Well, when I was here, somebody who had joined a dating service, he'd been an entrepreneur of the year. He had bestseller audiobooks. Poor guy, Amazon happened and put him out of business. But he had been recognized by Ernst & Young as the entrepreneur of the year. And he says, Roseann, you're great at meeting people. Why don't you create a service that nobody's doing? And I'm like, huh? You meet people, you're good at connecting them, create something.
How many years ago was that?
30.
So was there anybody out here doing that? It was before Tinder or any of the apps came out.
There's services that, like Great Expectations lasted a long time. It was the only video dating service or the first one, and they're gone. But it was back then, the back of the New Times, the weekly was 976 Babe, and people were complaining about how much money they'd have to spend per minute to meet somebody that you didn't get to see a picture of. It was horrible.
Because they have, name all the things that, eHarmony, right?
Yeah.
All the
Match.com, there's thousands
of them.
Online services. But my guys are pretty private.
Yeah.
So the ones who hire me, I was told in a focus group before I started the company, I said, I'm going to be a search firm. And right now I'm growing to be the #1 relationship search firm in the country. My company is called SPIES. We're on the lookout for the love of your life.
Tell them what the letters stand for.
Oh, thank you for asking. Well, I read these marketing books and they said you should say it succinctly. So SPIES, we're on the lookout. That's succinct. It's single professional introductions for the especially selective.
Yes.
So my website's especiallyselective.com. It appeals to the male ego. Like, yeah, I'm picky. I identify with that. And you should be picky.
Yeah.
The divorce rate's been 53% in the U.S. The divorce rate of the people who come to me is 3%.
Because they think it through, you put
They
them
think
together.
it through. They're meeting somebody that they'd never crossed paths with. Or one guy said he used to see the girl I found him at True Food, but she was always with someone, and he didn't want to be the 20th guy to hit on her that day. And he said, and I don't know anything about her. So I get to be the advanced woman. Just like the president has an advanced team, I'm the advanced woman.
But how do people find you?
A lot of it is things like this, so that people will come to your podcast and say, what? She goes out and finds women for the most eligible guys? I want to know who that is. Roseann Higgins. I'll Google, my website, Instagram. I'm going to be much more active this year on Instagram and LinkedIn and X even. Fox News found me on X.
Really? Have you interviewed with those?
Yes. They
Good.
said, what would your interest level be if we had you on the show or wanted to have you? I'm like, is this a trick question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yes.
Sure.
I'll bend over backwards. When do you need me? What do you want me to do?
But they can be out of the state of Arizona, right?
Yes, they have to. Right now, it's easier to find women to date men in Arizona because my hub, my biggest circle of influence is going to be here. But as I get more people who are drawn to what I do and go, I'd like to be her spy on the ground in Chicago, or her spy on the ground in New York or L.A. or San Diego. I would love to have helpers.
So describe your ideal client.
Okay.
The men who, what do they like?
The ideal client, one, he has to know he wants to be a great husband and a great father.
So it's about getting married. It's not a hookup.
No. If they wanted just a hookup, they could go to the W and find a woman to give half their assets to and be, just be miserably going through a divorce years from now.
Sure.
What did you say about lawyers? The best decision you can make is to hire one who's
really a tough SOB.
Yeah.
You need somebody really tough. So these are guys who are committed to getting married. They want family.
Well, they don't say committed to getting married. What they say is they want to find somebody to share their life with, and they're not meeting anybody who's at the level of what they're looking for. Some of them do want to have a family. I have a guy right now who's 40s. He's in his 40s. He's really tall. He's good looking, and he was brought up Jewish, and he'd love a woman who would love to raise children in a Jewish faith. And he can get dates without my help. But to find a girl who is going to be a keeper and loving and be a great mother is hard to do, no matter what age, no matter what faith. So when I find somebody, there are so many things that go into who you would share your life with. It's not just about going out on a date on Friday. It's who do you want to go on a date with 5 years from now? Who are you thrilled to come home to at the end of the day and wake up with in the morning? And what does that look like and what does it not look like? What we tend to do is we end up dating somebody who has some of the things we don't want, but we stay because they have enough of the things that we do want, but we shouldn't marry them. And we know we shouldn't.
They settle.
But a lot of times, I had a man who said, Roseann, my wife and I separated at 10 years. This is a guy who owned 25 locations of a company, very successful, good looking, tall, had all of his hair. You said having hair was a deal breaker for you, and which is really great for your listeners, because I think we're all human. We all get to be picky. We all should have somebody we want to kiss. And what does that look like?
Yeah.
So he said, we unfortunately got back together, and I've been in a loveless marriage for 20 years. And that happens to a lot of successful men, is that they marry somebody. Maybe it's because it's visual. Maybe it's because it was too hard to extract from. Well, we might as well. And then they have kids who know what that's like, to grow up in a home where mom and dad didn't adore each other. My mission is to have a man and a woman marry for love, hold each other tight, and their children.
Yeah.
And never have a daughter or a son have to pack a bag to go to mom's or dad's.
I say what you do is, if you look in the business world, you are a human resource and you're a placement officer.
It is human.
You're trying to recruit the right. You're a casting director.
Only I ask questions that HR could never ask.
Well, I'm sure. But see, the way you operate, you go to a lot of social events,
Yes,
right?
yes.
You must
Thousands.
go out every night.
Well, I've gone to as many as I think 5 events in a day. I actually,
wow.
I have a drawer.
It's a lot of wardrobe changes.
It's not necessarily. It depends on the day and
So you
the
know
event.
the good
Like I have
food.
another event tonight,
Yeah, so you're always on the go.
and it's young people, and I'm
Okay.
like, this dress could probably fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that group.
So when you arrive at the scene, describe what you do. I'm just curious to see what you do.
It's more of a looking around the room and seeing who my guys would want me to go up to if they were standing right next to me. They would go get that one.
Okay. And then something draws your eye.
Yeah,
a
if they
particular
smile.
client.
Like I
Okay.
remember being at a Dave Barry luncheon at the Arizona Biltmore, and I saw a girl throw her head back in a genuine laugh in the lobby area.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, and she's attractive,
Yeah,
she's slender,
yeah.
she's got friends around her, and she did that. That genuine laugh,
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to go find her.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's wearing a ring, but I'm going to find her. I go in there and I act like I'm looking for my chair.
Okay.
And I start at the left end. And I swear, unfortunately, I don't mind if people see that I'm in there, because if they know who I am and what I do, they'll go, there she is. Let's see what she's going up to.
Yeah, because you're tall. You're 5'11".
It's 5'11" and a half, 6
So you
foot,
stand
yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
they're looking at you going, who's the tall blonde
Yeah.
coming over
And
here?
I just act like I'm looking for my chair nonchalantly. And she's in the farthest table in the room.
You got to
And
work your way over there.
I say no. So I see her. She's talking with somebody. I come up behind her and I'm patient. I'm not going to be rude in the middle of her conversation. I tap her on the shoulder with like a finger, not being aggressive. And she turns around and I smile at her. I said, I had to come find you after I saw you laugh in the lobby, because I don't know if you're single, but that laugh is the type of girl that the guys I work with the most eligible guys in Arizona. And if you're single, I would love to know you. She says, actually, I am. I said, can I have your card? We'll talk later when everybody's not listening.
So you get the card.
Yeah, I get
so-
her cell phone number. I might say, how old are you?
Yeah.
I'll find out a lot more later.
Yeah.
And I'll text you right away. Can we take a selfie? And so I take a selfie of our
Picture?
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Good.
if I change your life completely, that's
You're
the beginning
gathering
of a
intelligence.
story.
All the Navy trained, you're gathering intelligence.
Yes.
So then, do you meet her later for lunch? Or?
No, not necessarily, because I don't have that kind of bandwidth to,
Yeah.
or a stomach. I have to like stay slender. But
It's an occupational hazard.
Yeah,
like
I
the
just
chefs.
lost a bunch of weight, and I'm not going to do that again. But I will reach out to her by text first, and then start the process of making sure she's single and available. What is she looking for? I have a 4-page questionnaire.
They fill it online.
Well, yes, I'm changing it. It used to be a Word doc, and I have the confidentiality promise that says you also have to invite me to the wedding, because you're more committed to inviting me to a wedding before I introduce you than after. Because the guy might say, well, do we really want our matchmaker there? And I'm like, yes.
Yes.
It's in your contract. Remember that little
Interesting.
line?
To thank you.
I just
Yeah.
went to one of my weddings at Nobu in Cabo. And he told everybody, this is our friend Roseann who introduced us. I'm like, yeah, baby.
Yeah,
And their
yeah.
families, the best part
Yeah.
is his family and her family welcomed the other family as part of theirs.
Oh, man.
And I'm just like, wow. And they had incredible families.
Isn't that amazing?
That's a gift. That's beyond
Yeah.
the couple. That's just
Yeah.
like,
The union.
it's something to leave behind that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't exist tomorrow, that happened today.
You came together. You formed that union. So then
They formed it. I just,
you brought them, but
did
you
the
were
little-
the medium that made
Yeah.
it happen. So when you
But it
find
took
these
good people.
it's got to have the right people to fit.
Yeah.
So when you saw this girl, did you think, who would the guy right be?
Okay, so
who would be the right guy?
So for the Cabo couple,
Yeah.
I was at Brendan Burchard's influencers event with her. We were rooming at an Airbnb. Her sister used to do my hair. Her sister married Dean Graziosi. I don't know if you know Dean. He's partners with Tony Robbins. And
Yeah,
great guy.
motivational
And his
talent.
wife is just, Lisa did my hair and she's to die for. Awesome. And I saw her sister when I was getting my hair done, and she was 28. And I'm like, girl, that's your sister? I need to know her.
Yeah.
But she wasn't ready at 28. I saw her 2 years later getting my hair done again. I'm like, girl, you still single? So, I mean, that's what I say. You're still single? We got to talk. So she gives me her number, and we're rooming. We become friends. She's very entrepreneurial. And I got to see how she worked for Dean as well, managing his Knowledge Broker Blueprint program. They're now Mastermind. And I saw how she was with his people and how they adored her. And then she organized a dinner at this place called De Medici's, which is unfortunately out of business now, but it was an Italian place. We were just at North Italia. And it was stellar. And I got to see how much she could eat. That girl can eat. But somehow she stays really fit and she's fun.
Yeah.
She was like the Energizer Bunny. At 11 o'clock at night, she was still going strong.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm just like, wow, she's going to make somebody a great wife.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
A lot of energy.
I wonder if my friend Jerome would I should text him.
So he popped into your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's what he asked for?
And it's just, well, he's a friend, not a client.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? Let's get him on. I'm going to text him right now. I think you need to meet my girlfriend, Lainey. And they did. And they didn't get a lot of sleep the first month. It didn't look like. They had very droopy eyes. And I can say that.
Yeah,
You say
cool.
things like that all the
Yeah.
time. And I'm just like, you guys need to have conversations. You know, when people fall in love really fast, I want them to have a fight and travel together
Yeah.
before they make a decision, because my divorce rate is at risk. And with 3%, I'm not going to mess it up just because you guys have chemistry. So, I mean, I realized you could have chemistry because she is hot and he is muscular and like a beefcake, besides being really smart, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
And see me after the fight, you know, if you have a disagreement. One of my couples that just got back from Paris, he said, Roseann, we are so compatible. As if I didn't know. And
You knew.
I find that funny. I enjoy it because
Yeah.
it's like he's trying to sell me
Right.
on how
It's
compatible they are.
convincing. But, you brought up a great point. When couples will ask me, just as their doctor, their people they're dating, I said, before you marry, before you commit, go on a trip, long
Yes.
distance, overseas.
And how much luggage does the other person
Right.
carry?
If you're compatible, but also how you solve problems together.
Yes.
Are you the victim? Do you blame them? It's really, I tell my sons, life is very simple. It's about solving problems. Solve the problem. Don't be a jerk. There's another word, but be a nice person. But it's how you solve the problems. And if you're partnering for life, how do you as a couple solve the problems together?
Yeah.
Are you a good team?
And
It's
if something runs late, if your taxi breaks down, how do both of you react
Yeah.
to stress?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you can get through that together, or at least understand where your partner's coming from, yeah, you find out a lot. And if you find out she's nightmare, then find out now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that nightmare, you're at the honeymoon stage.
It's not going to
she's a
get
nightmare
better.
now,
It's
yeah,
not going to get better.
It's a triple
But
nightmare.
the show's going to get better because we're going to pause for a break. We're going to come back with Roseann Higgins talking more about looking for love and what she does as a matchmaker. So stay tuned on House Calls with Dr. Connie and Roseann Higgins for more after this break. Welcome back to House Calls for your prescription for Valentine's Day, and it's about looking for love, and we're interviewing professional matchmaker Roseann Higgins. We could just continue on this because there's so many fascinating things. You were sharing about when you work events and you're gathering intel, getting information for potential candidates to introduce candidates to your clients.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then something sticks out. But what are you looking for?
I'm looking for eye contact. I'm looking for, is she looking over my shoulder or is she looking at me? Is she so intent on finding a guy that she won't talk to a girl? Is she kind? How does she treat other people? Like if the server comes up to us, is she kind and gracious to them? Because that's part of who she is, and you can't fake it. And I want to be very observant because guys are counting on me to be their observer. So here's what happens. When I meet a drop-dead beautiful girl, I'm a girl. I like boys. Nothing changes inside of me. I don't have any blood loss in the head. I don't start thinking with other body parts.
Yeah.
I don't give her a pass if she's mean to somebody because she's so stunning. It's okay. It's worth the extra little bit because she's that hot. And there's even something I read recently. There's a science that men take longer to process a beautiful face than women. And I'm
Really?
just like, isn't that interesting? So it's no wonder they miss cues that women actually clearly give about whether they're interested or whether they're kind or whether they're attentive or whether they're good people. Yeah, so
There's a funny
I don't
story
miss that.
comes to mind. As you know, I worked in the White House 9 years.
Yes, I love
one
that.
with Bush, 1 year with Bush, 8 years with Bill Clinton, and then W for 6 months. And my front desk secretary, Phyllis, was this beautiful redhead, drop-dead, gorgeous, buxom yeoman in the Navy, redhead,
it,
but we
love
wore
it.
civilian clothes. So President Clinton would drop by sometimes because my office was on the ground floor. So when the door would open and he would poke his head in looking for me, I was in the other room, Phyllis would stand up and says, she was from Kentucky. She'd say, "Howdy, Mr. President." And he would look at her, but he would be looking at her
Yes.
bucks up, boobs. And he would be talking, he'd be looking at her breasts going, is Dr. Connie here in the office? And she goes, "I'm up here, Mr. President." And he would blush and realize that he was looking there.
Yeah. He was on autopilot.
So when guys come in, because you represent them, you're their representative. What do guys look at when they come into a party? What do they look at? They look at
You mean when I meet
bodies?
guys that are out at events?
What catches their eyes? Is it their body shape?
Okay.
Is it their height?
They're looking at everything. In the list of what men ask for, attractive and slender waist is number 1 and number 2. And people hold it against them. But I'm like, you know what? If a guy works out, he probably wants a girl who works out. So I can't hold it against him. If he looks good naked, he probably wants somebody who looks good naked. And then he wants somebody nice. He can find the first two. Finding nice in addition to that is harder. Then intelligent, then emotionally secure, has dealt with her baggage, is going to be a great partner, and financially secure, isn't looking to be rescued from a train wreck that is her life. So when a guy, but he's not thinking that deeply when he meets her on his own.
It's cursory. You're just like scanning.
Yeah, it's like those are later topics that he doesn't really care about at all because this attractive woman is talking to him. So they need me to go in there and ask the tough questions to keep them from doing what they are just on autopilot to do. Attractive woman, want her number, take her to dinner Friday night.
And then find out, So what do you ask people?
Everything. When I first meet them, I remember a reporter shadowed me at the Phoenix Art Museum. We used to host after hours, second Wednesday of the month, and we were a top 10 pickup place by the New York Times. We had 400 to 1,200 artists, architects, and attorneys. I called it the 3 A's. And it was a great place to meet single people. And I actually helped my girlfriend Sandy, who I met at a Tony Robbins event, meet her husband Greg because he was an attorney, and I got her as an artist involved in the art museum. So it's interconnecting worlds. And when I'm in there, I created a raffle. I'm always being strategic. Like right now, I'm volunteering for Pat's Run because one of my guys should be meeting a girl who would run in Pat's Run. And I'm like, you could go volunteer for yourself. And he's not going to do it. I'm like, well, then I will. So, and I'll meet nice people who are fit. Yeah. And I've run Pat's Run for many years for Pat Tillman, who is a fellow. I met him before he joined the military. And I said, are you sure you want to join? If you need anything, call me. He was so funny, him and Jake Plummer from ASU. So they went way back. But anyway, back to what I look for. I am looking for her availability. Is she really seeing somebody right now? Because they'll tell me, well, I'm kind of seeing someone. And if I talk to him, would he say he's really seeing you? Yeah. Usually it's the guy who will waffle on whether he's seeing someone more than a girl. And I want to know, what are you looking for? How come a girl like you? I've got videos that I'm going to be sharing. I shared one of them on Instagram so far. But I meet so many beautiful women that are willing to talk about being single. And I'm creating a new show. And I'm not sure if I'm going to call it Raising the Bar on Love or that's the subtitle. But you weren't sure about whether...
That's your tagline under. There's got to be something that snags them, gets them. We'll talk to our marketing gurus.
So
we'll get people's
We'll get
minds.
there. But Roseann Higgins, you'll find out whatever it is we create. But the beautiful women that I meet on a daily basis, they have to be beautiful to the core. And they just don't run into guys that have their act together, that aren't players, that aren't just like, they courted you. Like I had a pentathlete who'd been in the Olympics tell me that guys would put her up on a pedestal, worship her, chase her incessantly until she fell in love with them. And then they would start tearing the pedestal down. And that happens. Don't you agree?
Sad. It's so sad.
Yeah, so I'm looking for the keepers that are going to be great wives and husbands, that are going to be honorable people that I would want as my friends. That's really the first filter is, would I want this person as my friend?
Because you're coming in as a gal pal. Hey, tell me about this and that. And then you say, I've got the right person. Are guys, I would assume they're tougher to share with you, right? When you talk to your clients.
They've probably never shared all the things that I ask. One guy wrote in a review that I ask an inordinate number of questions, but I owe my happy life and my happy wife to Roseann's questions, so I recommend that. And I want to know, what are your don't wants? What are your deal breakers? Because sometimes you ignore a deal breaker and you shouldn't have.
One of the things I like to ask people, if they're interested, I would ask them, what is it about you don't want anybody to know?
Ooh.
So use that. because that's vulnerability. If they're willing to share
That
with
you don't want anybody to know.
what is it about you don't want anybody to know?
I ask about credit checks. I tell them they should both share a credit check with themselves before they get married, so that
It's a
they know what they're
financial.
walking into.
Because you're pretty naked. When you do, I talk to people about their health care, but when I said, if you're dating somebody, your partner, if you talk about money, you are now vulnerable because you're sharing everything, your statistics. It's like sharing your weight with somebody, even more so with your financial. But it really does, if you're able to share all those things, but what you're vulnerable and you're willing to share. One of my friends, who I actually did her wedding ceremony in November, a widow friend of mine, when she was dating her husband, I told her to ask him that question. And she said, he was very honest. He says, I don't want people to know that I never went to college, that I only finished high school. And she goes, that doesn't matter to me. You're in your 70s, she's in her 60s. She goes, there are a lot of jerks with PhDs. I don't care. So that was something that really limited him. Like, he wouldn't go to social events because everybody had gone to college and beyond. And he was a high school graduate, albeit he was a multimillionaire high school graduate, but that was really very sensitive to him, and he felt so awkward. Mm-hmm. But she was so open and loving that it was they were just a wonderful couple put together.
Loving a man through his hard areas. Like, one of my guys in COVID, he had 52 locations, and it was a particular industry affected older people.
Yes.
He had to close down a lot of facilities because of it. And I said, did he worry you'd leave him? Mm-hmm. And she said, actually, yes. But we sat down together on the floor, and I held him in my arms, and I told him, if I need to get a job, I'm going to get a job. Mm-hmm. We got this.
Yeah, as your partner.
And that touched me more. I mean, she was a stunning model with a master's degree, and nice as can be. Mm-hmm. We would go hiking, and she would call in the parking gods. Bring Roseann a parking spot.
Yeah. You got good parking karma.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
that whimsical.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And he needed that.
Yeah. It's almost like you're appealing to the little child, the wounded child. Something in that little child comforts, and that we take roles as parent and father and mother to each other.
We need a best friend who's there to comfort us, and that rarely comes up, that we demand that or get to see that in our partners.
Do we teach society? Does society teach people how to make good decisions about partners?
Actually, I've been thinking of creating a course. I talked to some students recently. A girl was getting her nails done next to me. She's 16 years old, going to Sunny Slope High School, my alma mater. And I'm like, you know what? I would love to have you on the show, the show I want to create, because I think nobody teaches you how to pick the best boyfriends.
So how do you pick the best boyfriend? What do you tell them?
What would I tell them? Ask a lot of questions. Ask how they feel about, what their future is going to be like. I haven't thought of like a 16-year-old before. How many girls do they feel they need to date? How many girls have they dated? Who are they sleeping with? What do they not want in a girl? A guy who's...
What are you looking for?
Who's young, probably hasn't thought of what he's not looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they don't know. I think they think it's kismet or random, I'm meant to meet, but they don't know what they know.
Does he want a family? Does he want children?
Or some people think I'm not good enough for that. I'm not going to pick somebody good. I tell people, one of my nurses, he went on to become a Navy captain, and he dated all these girls, and he was trying to decide, this is at the White House. I said, all these gals he was dating, I said, you'll know the right person because you will be the best person you can be because of them. They're not going to change. You don't expect you're going to marry somebody to change it. It's not going to happen. But if you're with that person and they're your life, you are the best person you can be. Marry your biggest fan. Marry your biggest fan. That's what you want.
The right person makes you better. This girl that I introduced, she said, I don't know how he does it, Roseann. He's got hundreds of employees. He is busy all day. He comes home when I'm sick and I'm at my worst. And she's gorgeous. So for her to be at her worst, she's not feeling her most secure self, probably.
Yeah.
And she said he brings me a breakfast in bed tray with a rose on it and a juice. And he sits there with me.
Yeah.
And I'm just
cherishes
like,
her.
wow, yeah.
I think I was reading several books. Obviously, I love those self-help books and psychology. And women women need, what is it I put? Men need to feel confident. You know, when you talk to your man, you said, you know, you're amazing. You're my knight in shining armor. You're my savior. You're strong. You're amazing. You're awesome. Women need to say, you're my queen. I elevate you. You're my princess. You're my queen. So men want to be needed. Women need to be wanted, desired. Men need to be, I need you to help me.
They want to be appreciated.
Yeah, appreciate. And it's really, I ask, you know, women, I go, what are you looking for? And they go, I just want somebody kind. Just kind. In a nice...
Kind is huge, especially for men who have married wrong and they have had wives that just rip them up and down. And it just blows me away. I mean, it affects the children too.
Oh, yeah.
Immensely. And when they marry somebody and they alienate the kids against the other partner.
It's, you know, so when you date somebody, you're dating all the past and moving on from that. Go
There
ahead.
was one more question that came to me while you were asking me what's important to ask. And I find there's one category that is the hardest to introduce, and that's atheists.
Oh, gosh.
Asking where somebody stands on God or the universe.
Yeah.
Where are they on that is an important question.
Why is that to you when you ask them?
Having matching values, how are you going to raise the children? What are you going to expose them to? An atheist who doesn't believe in God is a hard line. You know, they don't believe in creation through God. Yeah. Right.
When things go wrong, do you pray? Do you have that? It's true. What about politics?
Ah, well,
Nowadays,
this is a great
even
one.
more so.
This is a great one. The first term of Trump, I'd never had to ask about politics in 25 years of matchmaking then, maybe. And all of a sudden, I had a guy who was a Republican, and he wouldn't date Democrats. And that never happened before. And I had 5 awesome, qualified, beautiful, intelligent, fit women ready to go out with him
But they were
until
Democrat.
we got to the political question. And he said Trump was the divider in chief. And I'm just like, wow. But then I found him a girl who waved a banner on the corner of Carefree and Cave Creek in a rally, a Trump banner. And I'm like, you're in.
You drove by and you saw her doing that?
No, she told me she did that. And
Oh,
I'm
my
just
God.
like, yay, hallelujah.
Did you connect them?
Yeah, and they hit it off on the first date. They had a heck of a time. Yeah, so,
my
but
gosh.
now he's on a second term, and he is more divisive than ever.
Interesting.
Because the Democrats, I mean, I didn't need to be here to tell you this. You can just go on X and find out how people argue about math, you know, and the electoral results.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, okay,
we
I
will.
stay out of that. I just want to know what you're open to dating and what you're not open to. And I am Switzerland. I believe that we are all children of God or whatever you believe in. God made all of us with a possibility of greatness. And if your greatness is compatible with his greatness, that's what I want to know. And if you are Democrat or libertarian, liberal, whatever it is, if you don't believe in abortion, you do believe in abortion. Being that my birth mother told me that the only reason she didn't abort me is back then you didn't know who to ask. I'm just like, thank God Roe v. Wade was 1973, and here I am.
You were meant to be here.
Right?
She was meant to keep you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were meant to be here.
But I don't have a judgment. I do have a judgment. Good people.
Yeah.
If they're
want a
not good
person.
people, I won't introduce anybody. If they're mean to me, they're going to be meaner to him.
Yeah. You got to have similar like values, or at least resolve it in a way that's kind and respectful. I always say we've lost a lot of respect in this country towards each other, and in really basic kindness.
I'm amazed at what people will say
mean?
online now. I'm like, are you serious? Like the confirmation hearings. I was just blown away at how some of them attacked some of the nominees. And I'm like, I don't care who you are, what your beliefs are.
Don't do
When
that.
you attack in that way, that is more about you. And I couldn't believe that we elected officials that would say dark things, that would attack in the way they did. I don't
Or you
remember
go
their
to-
names, so I tried to wipe them
But
from
see,
my memory.
you go towards the light, and you would be because you're looking for people to have a future, which is hope.
I want you to support each other.
Yeah, because that impacts society. I mean, then you have a partner in this life to carry on what you're meant to do, and you find them the right partner.
And you don't want to go home. I was telling this, one of my guys said, Roseann, when I hired you, I didn't tell you what what my party was, but I will tell you as of 3 days ago, I am a confirmed, committed Republican. And whoever you would introduce me to, he's gorgeous, he's 6'5", he's super fit, he's super smart, he works in the startup world, super dateable. Oh yeah, can I share a story?
Yeah.
Do we have time?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a great story. He told me about how he dated a woman for a while, and he likes to go slow. They did the first overnighter. She wears flannel to bed, and he was surprised by that. And she didn't want him to touch her because she gets too hot. And he's a cuddler. And he said, I stared up at the ceiling until 1:30 in the morning when I finally said, I've got to go. This isn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
Then he meets a doctor. And the doctor is super feminine and loving. I mean, you can be a doctor just like you and be loving, feminine, sexy, like you said, woohoo. Yeah, and that's what a man wants.
Yeah.
And at night, she said she loves when he throws his leg over hers and holds her tight in his arms. And she'll say, and crook her finger, waggling him to come to her, saying, "Come here, my little boa constrictor." And I'm just like,
TMI.
yes.
But you have to have chemistry, and you
That
have to
wasn't
speak.
TMI.
You have to share the same language of love and affection. Some people want to, I have couples in my practice, separate bedrooms, separate home.
I don't get that at all.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen
It's-
with the couples that come to me from their
It's
previous marriages.
no
And I'm like,
intimacy.
you poor thing. Let's do better this time.
Yeah, and so it's what they need, and there's a lot of your.
And you should have an agreement in advance before you get married.
Well, you should
when
work
would
that
we
out.
sleep in separate bedrooms? Well, never.
Yeah.
Unless you snore.
Some of them are snorers, and
Only if
Russia.
you snore the house down, and then we should check out that before we get married.
So you were a good judge of character, right?
I
Would you
don't
say?
know about the snoring parts.
Oh, well, you can't tell because they don't know they're
There's only
snoring.
so much I
Usually
can
their
know.
bed partner tells you they're snoring. So when you look at all the couples you how many couples have you put together?
I've had 182. I've introduced hundreds, but some of them don't get married right away. They may date for a
wow.
few years.
Yeah.
I've had 81 fall in love with the first one I got because I'm a perfectionist. The Navy taught me attention or honed my attention to
Yeah,
detail.
yeah.
I was the girl in school that my girlfriend still remembers in high school. I would carry books home like from here to here, and we didn't have a car, remember? So I would just carry all these books to and from school and study my heart out, because I wanted to get an A from me.
Yeah.
And I want to get an A on every match I make. The next match is just as important as the match I made in 1994.
So who's the match for you?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 6 foot. I would say if he's 5'11" to 6'4", if he looks good naked, and not that you have to check that out for me, but he should be fit because I take care of myself and work out a lot.
How old does he have to be?
I would say 59 to 66, 65.
I'm just going through my patient clientele because I do physicals on.
Yes, and you see if they're fit.
So does it matter if he's widowed, divorced,
No,
never
as
married?
long as he's happy and not bitter.
Okay.
Yeah, and if
Happy
he's
enough.
fun. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There's somebody that came to my mind recently where I'm like, if he were, it's like, do I say this out loud? No, I don't. But there's a guy
She's
that
got
I
her
ran
filter.
into
She's got
recently
break. Yeah,
who's
don't do it.
married.
Yeah,
But
no.
if he were single, I'd be like, oh, please, Jesus. Yeah. So you just need to know God made one. If God made one, he made two.
Well, God is, I think God's the ultimate matchmaker, the best matchmaker, and who you just pray to guide you. So is it true that a lot of matchmakers don't marry? Because there's one in LA they talk about, never marry. Is that
I don't know.
part of an occupational hazard? Is that a plan?
I do know that it has been hard on men I've dated to know that my job, especially when I was in my 30s and 40s, was to go up to good-looking men at events. It took strength and support and confidence.
Yeah, you need a partner who is not threatened by what you do.
Yeah,
Who's
and God
respectful.
has sent me some good ones.
Yeah.
I got to admit, he has sent me some good men, and you know that.
Yeah, we know that. But so I want to thank you. We're going to wrap this up. We could talk for hours for we can actually do a reality series.
Oh, yeah.
You love what you do. You're expanding. I mean, you're putting it out there definitely to the universe. And the hope is that you have more clients than ever. Then you have to hire people to do what you do.
And I want
You love what you
Anybody
do.
listening, if a girl is out there that thinks that she could be what one of my guys is looking for, or if you have a gorgeous girlfriend and you can't, like you're sending me a girl.
Yeah, I'll send you a
And I'm
girl.
like, she's stunning and she looks like a Scottsdale girl. Are you sure she's not a
She's
Scottsdale girl?
authentic.
Yeah.
Low maintenance, but beautiful, self-maintained,
yeah.
very talented.
And
yeah,
she's
looking.
got a great figure and nice and available.
Yeah.
And so
I feel like I'm their agent. We're
me
really
too.
we're
Yeah.
agents for our
Casting
client.
agents.
So anything else you want to tell the camera before we sign off on Valentine's Day?
That one. Hi, I'm Roseann Higgins. And if you're single or even if you're like madly in love, I just want you to have that madly in love feeling every day for the rest of your life. And if you don't have it, you need to get it for you, whether I ever get to talk to you or not. I wish you all the love in the world. And I thank God for sending me Connie Mariano. And our mutual connection in the Navy is just a beautiful connector. Our lunch today was spectacular. And I can't believe this girl really can talk dirty to me. I love you guys. I probably went off topic there, but that's how our conversation will go if we ever talk in person. So no surprise.
Well, I'll write you a prescription to see Roseann Higgins if you're looking for love. So I wish you wonderful love this month and spread the love. And with that, God bless you and have a wonderful month. Take care.